Hi macro students, Miss Griffith here reporting from my garage. I hope the laundry machine is not too loud. Today we are going over 4.5, the money market. You are learning another graph during this section, and just like all the graphs we have done previously, you will learn what could shift the curves of this graph. We're first going to talk about the one curve on the graph, and that's going to be the demand for money. All right, so it's going to be downward sloping, the demand for money. On the x-axis is the quantity of money. On the y-axis is the interest rate. At any given time, people demand a certain amount of liquid assets, money, for two different reasons. This money rate here is referring to M1. M1, remember, is cash and checking accounts. All right, we are not referring to less liquid assets such as houses, stocks, and bonds. So this graph refers to just M1. Well, why do we demand cash or checking account? Well, we demand it first for transaction purposes, right? For everyday transactions. Essentially, we need money in order to buy stuff. Another reason people demand money is asset demand for money. People hold money since it's less risky than other assets. Okay, they prefer having a liquid asset instead of putting it into stocks or bonds or a house. So here you go. What is the opportunity cost of holding money in your pocket or your checking account? Well, the opportunity cost of holding that is the interest you could be making on other things, other assets, such as stocks, bonds, and real estate. So if you're holding this money either as cash or in a checking account, you are not earning the interest rate of other assets such as stocks, bonds, and real estate. Okay, moving on. The demand for money. Well, what happened to the quantity demanded of money when the interest rates increase? Well, let's go ahead and draw this again. X-axis, quantity of money. Y-axis, interest rate. Downward sloping demand of money. Well, when the interest rate is high, right, the quantity demanded for money is low. Well, that's because people are not going to want to hold their money as cash or in a checking account because they're preferring to have it in interest earning assets. So again, when the interest rate is high, the quantity demanded for money is low. Well, what would happen to the quantity demanded when interest rates decrease? So let's see when the interest rate is going lower. Well, the quantity of money demanded is higher. That's because it doesn't necessarily make any difference whether they're holding their money as cash or they are putting it into stocks, bonds, or real estates. So this shows us here that there is an inverse relationship between the interest rate and the quantity of money demanded. All right, and so now they actually draw this out for you. We have the nominal interest rate on the y-axis, quantity of money in billions of dollars on the x-axis. As interest rates decrease, there's a lower opportunity cost associated with holding money. Okay, so as the interest rate decreases, well, you're not missing out on other financial assets that you could be putting your money into. Okay, so there's an inverse relationship here. All right, now we are going to learn the three different shifters for the money demanded or the demand for money. We have changes in price level, changes in income, and changes in technology. Okay, for instance, well, what happens if the price level increases? Well, the demand for money is going to increase as well. Well, why is that? Well, things are going to cost more, so you're going to need more money, right, to make these transactions and to buy these goods and services. So when the price level increases, so does the demand for money. All right, changes in income. If your income increases, you will want to buy more things. You'll need to demand more money. Therefore, there would be an increase in the demand for money. And things like changes in technology. Okay, so what if we have online banking now, right? And great credit card systems, things like that. Well, are we actually going to need this cash? No, we wouldn't. So the demand for money would decrease with better technology or better banking technology. All right, there are a couple of multiple choice questions you can go through in Clifford's slides. And now we're going to add the supply for money to our graph. Notice that it is completely vertical. All right. Well, this is because the Fed, okay, so the money or the U.S. money supply is set by the central bank, also known as the Federal Reserve Bank. So the money supply is independent from the interest rate. The Fed actually is going to increase this money supply, shift it to the right, or decrease this money supply and shift it to the left. This is called monetary policy. So whenever you think of monetary policy, think of the Federal Reserve. And they have 3 different ways they can actually increase money supply or decrease money supply. I'm just going to go over them quickly here, but you will go through them more in 4.6. So one is they can change the reserve ratio. So that's how much the banks have to hold of the checking accounts. They can increase or decrease the discount rate, and you'll be going over that later, discount rate. And they can either buy or sell bonds. So we will be going over those 3 things, but that is what the Fed can do, either to shift the money supply to the right or the left. Okay, next. Well, what if we need to increase the money supply? What if we are in a recession? So we need to increase the money supply. Well, the Fed is going to increase the money supply. Well, what is that going to do here? It's going to lower the interest rate. So when the Fed increased the money supply, the interest rate was lowered. So they increased the money supply. This caused a decrease in interest rate. Well, a decrease in interest rate leads to businesses wanting to invest more in their business. So this increases investment, which then increases aggregate demand. This order of events in monetary policy is very important to know, okay? We're going to be drawing graphs for them, but that will be during 4.6. Okay, well, if we were in an inflationary gap or a positive output gap, the Fed might come in and decrease the money supply. When that happens, and we'll learn how that happens again in 4.6, when that happens, the interest rate increases. Well, now businesses are not going to want to invest as much, and that is going to decrease aggregate demand. So when the Fed decreases money supply, that causes an increase in the interest rate, which causes a decrease in investment and therefore a decrease in aggregate demand. Again, very important that you know these order of events, but we'll be working on it more.